So I guess I didn't watch a whole lot of stuff this past week. I guess I just did a lot of random stuff. Anything from playing around in the new Minecraft release to once again getting shafted by the Pokemon Battle Tower in Pokemon Diamond. So all that aside, I did watch Bleach Set 13, 12. Bleach Set 12. And that finished up the Eisen arc. So I'm really glad to know that this side story is ended as relatively quickly. I mean, it was annoying because it kind of showed up in the middle of an important story arc at a critical moment. And I'm guessing that the series is doing this because it's catching up to the manga release and it's trying to come up with filler in the middle of the show. And that really drags it down, since there's a lot of stuff about Bleach that I think is pretty cool. And it's really unfortunate when they interrupt the main story in the middle of the story for something like that. And that aside, I thought the Eisen arc wasn't too bad. It was pretty entertaining. So, if it wasn't placed where it was, I probably wouldn't have had a problem with it. Oh well. But the good news is that the last couple episodes on the DVD started back up the regular arc, and I got to learn more about a character I was actually fairly curious about and sure that there was more to them. But, yeah. Anyways, that's over. This story arc isn't over, so of course I'm waiting for the next Bleach set. I haven't checked to see when that comes out. I watched Fairy Tail Set 4, and I was actually a bit disappointed, unfortunately. Not that there was anything wrong with it, but I think this is the volume where I realized kind of cognitively what differs about Fairy Tail from One Piece. And that's really quite unfortunate, because it means I really want more One Piece, because I'm thinking about it too much. And the other is that the realization that Fairy Tail won't be able to do that. No, that's not saying that what it did do wasn't entertaining. It was entertaining, interesting, simple. It's just I kind of realized that Fairy Tail is kind of about making people a part of the group. And while One Piece kind of does that too, it spends a lot more of that uplifting parts just about being better people in general, I think, which is somewhat more uplifting. And at the same time, it means that, you know, since Fairy Tail is described by this group with an obvious headquarters, it means that they keep getting back in the corners with standard shonen issues of having to face one-on-one against characters who are stronger than them, I guess. It's like our main characters are maybe badasses, which is a pretty standard shonen thing. And, you know, One Piece, like I said, is they kind of set their foot down and say, we've got a team of badasses. And most people who talk down to them like your normal shonen people, your normal shonen bad guys do, you know, in One Piece, it's mostly them not being aware of how badass this group is. And that seems to be a really common theme, at least in these first 3 seasons of One Piece. And Fairy Tail doesn't seem to be going that way. But it's doing other interesting things. It's actually nice that they're not keeping the Fairy Tail Guild static. It's had some change in members, some interesting twists here and there. I would like it if the Gatekeep girl, what's her name, Lucy? Right now I hope it's not, because now I'm thinking of Lucy from Charlie Brown and I won't be able to get the association out of my head. But, okay, so it'd be nice to see her being able to do more than she does. I feel like the anime is kind of holding her back just for their own convenience and pulling powers out of places for various other characters just to get on with situations. At the same time, you know, a lot of this is probably just my stereotypical cheering for the protagonist sort of thing that I like to do. And Fairy Tail's okay. It's not bad. It's definitely not bad, and I think a lot of people out there are probably gonna like it a lot more than me. But I've said why I differ there. And finally, the only other thing I watched was Rumiko Takahashi Anthology, and I actually really liked that one. I mean, I mentioned this in the previous video, but for those of you who obviously did watch that or want me to go into more detail, Rumiko Takahashi Anthology is 13 individual unrelated episodes, unrelated to each other, and as far as I know, unrelated to any other of Rumiko Takahashi's works. And this is pretty much a very different format than almost everything else she's done, although not too separated from, in concept, from some of her previous stuff. But usually when we think of Rumiko Takahashi, we think Urusei Yatsura, which ran almost 200 episodes, or Ranma, which had 7 seasons, Inuyasha, which had 7 seasons and didn't finish, although there is Inuyasha Final, which I believe does finish it, since the manga's finished, but that's not come out yet, so I can't really judge Inuyasha other than what it currently is stateside, I guess, because that's all I've seen, blah 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 blah. I haven't seen Mason Ikoku yet, and Mermaid Force, even though it wasn't a very long series, was still a 12 episodes of stories connected closer together, and probably had some reliance on us knowing context from other stories and whatnot. So Rumiko Takahashi Anthology, with a bunch of episodes, pretty much requires us to enjoy find enjoyment. Well, it required the writers, or rather the writer, the director, whatever Rumiko Takahashi did, it required her to come up with something that was entertaining in a single 20-minute segment. And like I speculated, a lot of times what she seemed to do is to dip into social commentary. A real common theme in there is kind of, and this is something that's been present in her other works, but it's never been the central focus of it, unless that's what Mason Ikoku is about, but I don't think it is. But like the Japanese salaryman drone, the Japanese father who has to go to work, works a meaningless job, comes home, his family doesn't respect him, none of his family respects him, and he isn't allowed to do his own thing at home, and he's basically living day to day like a zombie or something like that. And this is something that I think exists to a certain extent in a lot of cultures, but for some reason in Japan there's just this, well, I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. This could just be because I'm exposed to it more via, yeah, I think now that I think about it, there's a guy who does, I think Korean comics that, kind of have some similar themes to them. So, this could just be a lot of stuff in Asian culture in general, where since they're not supposed to raise a fuss, but they're leading pretty blatantly through and through miserable lives, sometimes this means, that they're just really ignored, and I think Rumiko Takahashi was trying to draw some attention to them. But the entire series isn't about them as well. For example, one that's kind of maybe just a hint of lines sort of like that would be a guy who, this one was one of my favorite episodes in there. There were two of those, one of them I'm not sure, one of them is my favorite, but I'm not sure which one. But of one of those two, there was a Japanese businessman who was used to being a real higher up, working for a big company thing, and he's temporarily in between jobs because the company went bankrupt, and his wife gets sick, so he goes in to work in her place at a small little burger joint. And he takes it serious, but from the point of view of a very serious businessman, a kind of person who you don't fuck with or something like that. And that one was really amusing, and that one had less to do with if that one was doing any social commentary, it would probably be a commentary about how these people could be a little bit detached from reality or something, and kind of remembering to be a bit more human, but not quite in a Scrooge story way. The guy was always very well intentioned and understood. He was just bad at expressing himself. Looking more evil the harder he tried, for example. But, you know, it was kind of fascinating because, well, I don't know. I don't know why that one was there, but I remember that one just having me real entrenched. And then I think it was the one before it about the daughter who suspects that her parents may be trying to do a family suicide thing. Of course, that one was actually really closely related to the stress of working life thing as well, where his financial situation is spotty. Although that could be a Japanese economy thing in general. But, you know, it's... those were kind of my favorite two episodes. But most of them I just thought were pretty good. I can't think of any that were definitely bad. Just, I didn't care as much for some of them because it's like, this one is about mean people being mean people and reminding us about the existence of mean people, and that's kind of stresses me out a little bit. I thought that Rumiko Takahashi handled the portrayal of those people a bit better, sometimes even showing us how some of these people are misunderstood or something like that. So, all in all, it was quite interesting, and I think I may actually rate it as my more favorite Rumiko Takahashi work than Urusei Yatsura, which and I should give Mason and Koku a try so that I know for certain that one doesn't dethrone all or rearrange the order of all that stuff, and probably finish Ranma. Oh god, I got a lot of watching to do. So anyways, those three series, and I had a lot to say about Rumiko Takahashi Anthology, of course, and I don't know if I said everything I want to, but I'll just end here before I start trailing off too much. So you'll have a nice one.